Kevin and Vineet also talked about our web portal and some of the development there, and I know there was a question about, when we follow up on these leak indications with portable technology, how do we capture all that information as well? So we have a central repository for all that information. And so Steve Russell is going to talk about that. Steve works for Upstart 13. He's CEO and co-founder of Upstart 13, our chosen partner in the software development. And so Steve has held many leadership roles over his 28-year-long career, more recently software and services business unit at McKesson. And so Steve's going to come up and talk about some of the development that we're working on right now and he's going to mix in he talked the machine learning, AI, and some of the other, as we develop further along with the software package. With that, Steve.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Hopefully everybody's doing good. I want to first say thank you to Drew and the entire Heath team for bringing us together, but also the privilege of allowing me to get to meet all of you guys. Very excited to be here. So I'm not going to bore you too much with me, but I did want to share a few things. So I heard some Brits in the room. I was born in captivity. I grew up in the UK. I voted with my feet and decided to move out into Europe. I spent a number of years in different countries, as you can see on the map here, and did my whole Christopher Columbus thing and moved to the US around 13 years ago. Every single one of these pins represents growth, change, and eagerness to experience more and get into different industries, solve different problems, and all with technology in the background. It's taken me 28 years and a lot of looking in the mirror and realizing that, yes, I am finally the guy that has gray hair or no hair, to realize what my super strength is. My unique strength is dreaming up ideas and solutions that generally, they either make companies money, they create jobs, or they change lives in some way, either the lives of the users that are using the software or the people that are working on that software. So for 20 plus years of my career, I was working with outsourcing software vendors, partners all over the world. There was always something missing for me that I just couldn't put my finger on. And I would often say, in those moments of despair when your project is falling apart, everybody's been there. Damn, if I was to do this, if I were to go build a software services company, if I was going to do what they're doing, I would do it differently. I would do X, Y, and Z. I would treat people with respect. I'd definitely make sure that the people that join my business and want to build software feel appreciated. They understand what it is that they're building for their client and that they're paid well. Often in my space, in the software space, you run into lots of little tricks where a company will dangle the best people during the sales cycle, and then you don't get to see them ever again when the project actually gets started. We don't do those things. We certainly try our best to not move people around, so that knowledge that is being built every day while they're building the software stays in the team. And they're there to pass that on to newcomers as the team grows and evolves. So a little backstory. I'll be real quick with this. Two people who I've worked with in the past happen to be in Colombia. And they visit this place called Comuna 13, or District 13. It's on the outskirts of Medellin, Colombia. Back in the 80s and the 90s, this location was the most dangerous part of Medellin. And I'm told Medellin was one of the most dangerous cities in the world at that time. It was that kind of place that when you go in, you don't come out. You only go there if you're from there. Around the early 2000s, the local government decided that they wanted to change this. And it was a unique place because a lot of neighboring residential areas, all gang ran, overlapped here in District 13. So they rolled tanks in, they put planes in the air, they took the army, the police, they threw everything they could at it, and it failed. They killed a lot of people and they lost a lot of people, but it failed. They decided to take another attempt, thankfully, and this time they took a slightly different approach. They brought infrastructure. They installed escalators and brought power and other things, as well as the safety and the security, and that worked. And today, even now standing here, it's kind of odd that such a place could be a source of inspiration to start a software company. So my two co-founders, one of them's here in the room, so I'm going to describe them for you. One is probably the nicest person you will ever meet. The other is the biggest pain in the ass you'll ever meet. I've brought one of them with me. He's there at the back, if you could just wave. If you get to speak to him later, you can tell me which one you think he is. Thank you, Nathan. So these guys are visiting District 13, and they're just inspired by the change and the commitment to evolving as a community. But it's also a very sad place because there's still a lot of poverty. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of uneducated children that just hang out on the streets and talk to tourists, and that's their life. So these guys felt, hey, I don't know what we could do, but we have to do something. And they got back on a plane. They came to the US. They flew to see me. I was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. And nobody, I don't know if there's any Buckeyes in the room, hopefully not, but nobody visits you if you live in Columbus, Ohio. Unless they really, really want something, and I knew I was in trouble because they did. So Upstart 13 was born, and we've been spreading our love ever since. It's funny, in the early days of the company, we thought, well, we've been doing software for all these years, we've got decades of experience. We know how to hire people, we know how to develop them, blah, 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 until you realize you don't, especially when they're overseas and you have no way of doing background checks, you didn't do references, and we ran into trouble. In the first few projects, we realized we'd hired people that said they could do something and ultimately couldn't. So we pivoted real fast, and we said from this day forth, we're only hiring senior people. Ideally, people that have spent a year or two here in the US and have worked for large enterprise organizations. And they just happen to move back home. They happen to be in Brazil or Colombia or wherever we find them. I would love to say by design, it certainly wasn't. The path reveals itself every day to you in business. And what we've learned and realized over the last 3-4 years is we assembled a team of badass engineers who know and love how to build software. They're just super passionate about what they do. That allows us to solve software challenges in complex environments, highly regulated environments. So we just naturally enjoy and are good at solving those types of problems. Little call out to my team. Literally almost 3 years in, to be told 2 weeks ago that we have successfully been certified as a best place to work or a great place to work here in the US. And not only that, the company came in the top 100 for the country for our category. It's an achievement that I didn't expect to be talking about 3 years in, but a testimony to all of the hard work that's been done by a lot of people. So enough about us. Let's talk a little bit about why Upstart 13 at Heath. Before we get into the detail, I just want to say, one thing that I personally experienced. All of you have been touched by Heath in some way. I was completely enamored and impressed with the history and the tenure that this organization has. It's really, really hard to do what they've done, and they've done it very successfully. Not only that, they have one of the best software visions I've ever seen. I've been doing this a long time. I fell in love with it immediately. It's a bold vision, and they're at the beginning of that journey, but it is an amazing vision, and it will revolutionize the industry. So the first thing that we've started with, and we've only been in working day-to-day for the last couple of months, so we're focusing on building a solid foundation. One of the things that I enjoy today about software is that, like in all of the other disciplines of engineering, there's a lot of practices, there's a code of conduct, there's a way to do things, and you can also still be like cowboy and throw code together and build something, and it might work. Today we have the luxury of 30, 40 plus years of dedicated engineers establishing principles in our space, which allows us to build a strong foundation. And a strong foundation clearly allows us to build large towers, large buildings, large software on top. So that's the first and number one goal. Hopefully you saw on the other slides, we build software that people love. In order to do that, you've got to get the user experience right. And we've got a work cut out because there's a lot of data involved in what Heath does. So simplifying that experience for the users and allowing it to remain functional is a challenge, and it requires us to prioritize the user experience. And again, like we talk about data, all of us are touched by data all day, every day. Data is pretty useless in itself. When you combine it with other pieces of data, you start to build information. That's still not the most helpful thing to have in front of you. It takes finesse and skill and real deep knowledge of what it is that you're doing, your domain space, to turn that information into something that's actionable and insightful for the user at the right time. So there's a lot of focus around that, and ultimately creating a digitized, seamless experience for customers as they move through the turnkey solution. In the near term, we obviously have bigger goals. We want to get to the cool stuff. We want to be able to monitor and understand exactly what is going on in the field with this software at any given time, no matter where it is on the planet, and understanding its performance. So really being able to proactively address issues in the infrastructure before the customer is aware. You never want to know about an issue because your customer's telling you. Again, heavy emphasis on that user experience, bringing in real-time asset coverage, and then streamlined work assignment. Where I see Heath taking this is, the top bullet here is what we call headless. So being able to heavily integrate into your existing software, the software that you're used to working with in the field all day, every day. So a big emphasis there on creating the right APIs and connections. And then I hate to use buzzwords, bringing in that AI and machine learning. There's a lot of really interesting things that you're going to see come out over the next few years where intelligence is concerned. And then, of course, robust compliance reporting and deep analytics at the right time. So my goal for Upstart 13 is to be a voice of wisdom, help stakeholders in this space understand how to design a data strategy. There's a lot of data at stake, and it's very valuable for us to learn from it. Secure that data and capture it at the right time. There's going to be the need for additional technology that doesn't exist today, that's upstream before you get to leak detection, and then downstream after leak detection. Being there to help guide on those topics as well. And then overall, what we do all day, every day is reduce risk associated. There's a lot of Unfortunately, in the software space, there's a lot of money that gets spent on building software that never goes to market or is never implemented because it's just bad software. So avoiding that waste. And then my own personal opinion here is the industry has to move to a point where we're incorporating metadata from all of the utilities around what kind of materials, infrastructure is in the ground, what kind of product is traveling through it, what's the environmental circumstances of where that infrastructure is installed, and its usage, etc., its leak history, bringing all that together, date of install, etc., bringing all that together with the real-time leak detection that's being done here to get to that prediction and prescription of being able to maintain the infrastructure. It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you later.